Over the last 3 months, I have been rebranding almost every part of my business. And as we reach the final stages and my website's getting finished and everything is coming together, I thought I would sit down and share some of the unexpected things that I have experienced and learned in going through a rebrand. Bit of context to this is that I have never really rebranded before. I think technically it doesn't count as a rebrand if it's your first branding. And I've only ever had my branding done once before. I've been in business now for about 9 years. My first few years were a very cobbled together, messy action. I was super naive. I just kind of made everything up and tested and learned. And I'm proud of that. I think that taught me a lot. And that then meant that in 2019, I was ready to have some official branding for the first time. When I say official branding, my first ever logo was a Sharpie written AB, which I scanned into my parents' printer. Like that was my logo for the first few years of my business. When I tell you that I was messy action personified, I really embraced that principle. And do you know what? It worked. It got me to where I needed to get to. But like I said, then in 2019, I was ready to kind of refine things and just have everything be a bit more strategic. So at that point, I did my branding and also my website. And I had a fancy logo for the first time and a color palette and graphics and all of that fun stuff. And since 2019, I have never really changed it. Well, that's kind of a lie. I don't really use it anymore. At least I didn't use it anymore until I did this rebrand. It was almost that over the last kind of 6 years, I had just cobbled it together with other ideas and edited it and tweaked it and added in random things and taken things away that when someone would ask me like, oh, like, can I see your brand guidelines? Because I need to make something for you, or I need to, involve your branding in something, that I'd just be like, well, the brand guidelines I have, I don't really use anymore. I kind of use these colors. I kind of use it. Like it was Frankenstein-y is what I used to say, because it just felt like this mishmash of my old branding, but not really using any of that, adding in these random things. And actually one of the key things that made me realize my branding needed to evolve was this time last year when my book was published back in June of 2024. They invited me to add color to my front cover, which was a journey for me as someone who'd always used black, grey and white. But we agreed in the end to add a very bright yellow to my book cover, almost like a highlighter effect. And I obviously then wanted to use that yellow elsewhere. So I almost had this like mini kind of rebrand, but like when I say rebrand, like it was just me on Canva cobbling things together. And that showed me that working on my visuals was important, because even just adding in the yellow as like someone that doesn't know what they're doing, I was like, oh, this looks kind of good and this feels better. And slowly kind of over the years since then, I was just starting to feel more and more what was so broken with what I had. Not just the example I gave of, if someone was making something for me, I didn't have any kind of brand guidelines to give them. But even when I was like, presenting a talk or posting a graphic online, I feel embarrassed. Like I'd be doing my slides or something and just making a bit of a joke even to the crowd of like, I know these kind of look like a 12-year-old's made them in clip art. In fact, they're probably even worse than a 12-year-old made them. Like I was getting to the point where I was genuinely a bit icked out by how bad my visuals were looking. And I don't think many other people necessarily thought they looked super bad, because the black and white kind of created this fake sense of cohesion and strategy, but there was no strategy, there was no design. And to put it very simply, with all of that kind of waffle behind me, the externals didn't match the internals. Like I'm 9 years in, I'm pretty legit. The business has done some cool things. We're growing up here, but the visuals just didn't match that. I didn't feel like if someone looked at my branding on my website or a slide deck that I'd made, that they would really see the business that I want them to see. And I know that those things are important, right? I'm a strategist. I get that everything is implying something and that you have all these opportunities to say something about your business. And so as we kind of entered this year, I knew that a rebrand was going to be on the horizon. In fact, at that point, I definitely just thought I'll do a bit of work on my visuals and get a new website, and that's kind of all I need. And then I started to realize that actually I kind of just needed a total overhaul. And so, yeah, the last 3 months, I've been going through a full rebrand. It is a rebrand in the sense of everything is changing, but it's not like, I'm not going from A to Z. I'm not going to this colorful, flowery brand. It's still me. It still looks quite similar, but everything is very refined. I'm very excited to have been sharing a bit more of it with people and getting a positive reaction. But with all of that kind of context and waffle aside, I wanted to dive into 5 of the things that have felt quite unexpected. I guess 5 of the things that if I could go back to the me of 3 months ago, I would probably say, because I guess they're things that I kind of didn't expect to be true, but would have been nice to have a bit of a warning. So whether you're just listening to this because you're nosy, or if you're going into a rebrand as well, maybe these 5 things can help you feel a little bit more prepared than I did when I entered this process. So first thing I would say, which I've kind of touched on already, is if you want to do a full rebrand, there's actually a lot that involves. Back in 2019, as I said, I only really worked on my visuals, so like logo, color palette, etc., and my website, and those are really key parts of a brand. But this time around, like, I have done a 360 approach. I've done all of my visuals, of course, the website's being done as well, but for the first time ever, I've also rebranded my own wardrobe and style. If you haven't seen already, there is a video on my YouTube which vlogged the whole process. I worked with the amazing Sophia Bailey, and it was very new for me, but exciting, and she really helped me to kind of level up my style in line with the business looking better, me looking better as well. So that's another piece of the puzzle that I hadn't thought about before. Another piece of the puzzle that I added in is also thinking about my workspace and my office. We are currently building a garden office, which is really exciting, and after a year of working from the corner of a living room is something that I am very ready for. And so I'm also working on the design of that office with an interior designer to make sure that it kind of matches the rebrand, so that when I'm doing podcast episodes there and content and whatever else, like that kind of matches up. And there's other pieces of the puzzle as well. I'm working on my PR strategy. I'm doing work on my marketing strategy with my management company. Like, I really am taking a 360 approach, and that is something that I hadn't necessarily intended to do, but as the rebrand has started to unfold, I've realized, like, I don't want to miss out any key pieces of the puzzle. Like, I don't want to have amazing graphics, but then my office space that I'm filming in so much, or the wardrobe that I wear to speak at an event, you know, doesn't match up with that. Cohesion and everything kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, if we want to use that analogy, is really important. And so whilst I don't think you have to do all of those things when you're rebranding, this process has really opened my eyes to actually how many things your brand impacts, and if you want to, how far you can take it in terms of the things that you rebrand. So that would be my first reflection. There's a lot more to it. If you want there to be, you can really take a 360 approach. The second thing that's felt, I mean, it hasn't felt unexpected if I'm honest, but I've just been reminded of, is it's an investment. And I don't just mean an investment of money, I also mean an investment of time and energy. It's felt like a really big project over the last 3 months. And I know that probably sounds obvious, but like, I'm so used to all of my projects and goals being things that feel quite important to like the business's growth now. Like, they're quite immediate things. You know, a project might be launching a new product range for On Paper, or opening the doors to On It, like I did recently, or onboarding a new team member. Like, it feels like things that are quite tangible. I see external kind of results from it quite quickly. Whereas this rebrand has felt like quite a long and slow process where I've invested a lot, and actually it did take a while to feel like some of that was coming back. I remember there being a point where we were kind of doing all the early stage kind of branding stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, when is it going to feel like this is kind of becoming external? Like, I feel like I'm just spending a lot of money and giving a lot of my time and energy to this, and I'm having to just trust that process. Like, as business owners, we don't sit twiddling our thumbs, right? We don't have loads of time and energy, and so I've actually noticed like it has kind of increased my workload quite a lot. I've had to spend a good, you know, probably half a day a week minimum on the rebrand. And despite hiring a lot of other experts, I haven't really done a lot myself, but it still takes a lot from you. You know, managing people, giving feedback, being involved, getting the most out of whatever it is that they're doing, that takes time, energy. And so that would be something that I think I could have expected a bit more. Like, it's going to take a lot of my time and energy. Like, don't be freaked by that. Don't worry that I'm not wasting time. Like, it's needed. And then obviously the financial side of it as well. Like, it has not drained my business bank account, but I'm quite organized with my business finances. I have a pot that's kind of the buffer, and the buffer's not really buffering right now. Like, I've got money obviously set aside for like my salary and key business expenses. Like, I'm good, but I'm not used to not having any kind of money in that buffer pot. But you've got to spend money. Like, it's not cheap. And I don't want to say it's expensive, because I think expensive feels like it has a judgment attached to it. Everything I've paid for, I've felt has had complete value and relative worth, but like, it is an investment, and it is an investment that absolutely I'll get back. You know, even if I think about how long my branding in 2019 I kind of used for, like, you know, if I look at the cost per day of this rebrand if over the next 2 years, like, it's so worth it. but it is a big investment up front when you don't always see that come back immediately. So that's my second reflection. Probably a bit of an obvious one in terms of it's a big investment financially, but more unexpected as well in how much of my time and energy was invested too. Speaking of hiring and working with others, my third kind of unexpected lesson, which is honestly something I relearn every time I do something collaborative, is that working with other people is not always easy. And I say this having no regrets about any of the people that I hired and having such an amazing time throughout. But still, as someone who is used to always working for and by themselves, I always find it a little bit jarring when I'm working with other people. I knew with this rebrand, I want to do it well. I want to work with experts. I want to work with people that get my vision, whose process I like. And even with them doing everything brilliantly, like there's always still going to be that sticky point, right? Where it's like, you know, that fear when you get something back that it's not going to be what you want, and working out how to give the right feedback, or even just dealing with other people's kind of processes or ways of doing things. Or, you know, like I said, I don't even say this because anything really went wrong, but for me, it's just always a reminder of like, oh yeah, I'm very used to working on my own and having full control and not really being in collaboration much. Like even the way that my team work, I've very intentionally built team who are very kind of self-reliant. I don't really want a team structure where like I'm chatting with people all the time. Like people get their job done and it's all quite kind of simple. Like it's not really that I'm like their manager. And so I think I'm quite used to that. And then when I'm working with people where it's more involved and it's kind of their opinion, my opinion, like, yeah, it's just different for me, I guess is the biggest thing I'd say. So that's definitely something that I have to remind myself of anytime I do something collaborative. I mean, like publishing my book was very similar, like working with that publishing team. The truth is you got to work with experts to get excellent results, but always a bit of a fun or different process if you're used to working on your own quite a lot. Fourth and penultimate reflection, which is something that I'm definitely feeling at this point as we're kind of near the end of the process, is that you will get decision fatigue. And something that I think doesn't get said as much, but is definitely true, is you will get Pinterest board fatigue. Okay, if you were to hack into my Pinterest, my boards over the last 3 months have been busy. I've had a board for everything. There's a board for my personal style, a board for my office, a board for my website, a board for my graphics, a board for my photography, a board for my new content. Like there's so many Pinterest boards, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy it. Or maybe I enjoyed the first few is probably what I'd say. But I see the point in them. They're needed. They're a great part of the process. I don't resent them, but it's tiring. Like constantly being in that space where you're like casting vision, thinking creatively, thinking differently, having to give people that like creative brief, like that is tiring. And I would definitely say with the rebrand that I'm doing, where like I'm rebranding so many different things, like I've said, it's not just one step. Like I've almost done a rebrand, the same process almost, you know, everyone follows the same process from rebranding my style to rebranding my graphics. Like it's the same process. It's obviously just looks different. Like you at the start have to give that vision, that brief, that here's what I want. And I think at this point, I'm a bit like, I'm so tired of capturing my vision in a Pinterest board or making decisions or giving feedback. Like it's like anything. If you do it a lot of times in a short space of time, like it does start to feel a bit tiring and repetitive. So that is something that I'm definitely seeing at the moment. And I'm just trying to have compassion for myself and realize that it's just part of the process, and also tell myself that I'm nearly there and it's going to be okay. And maybe one day I will want to log on to Pinterest again, as opposed to being a bit scared of that app because I have to be on there so much at the moment. But that would be my fourth reflection. You will make a lot of Pinterest boards, make a lot of decisions, and those things can get tiring, which is why I think it's so important when you're doing that to try and be in their best headspace. Like my vision and my feedback is so important to this going well. So I try and do that when I'm energized in a good brain space, because if I'm tired, I'm not going to do those things well. And tired decisions and tired vision is often not very aligned. So definitely learning that as I go. And then the fifth and final reflection that I would share with you, which you can probably hear a bit in the answers that I've shared already, is I think a rebrand is a huge exercise in self-trust. Like when you think about it, branding or rebranding a business is all about you as the business owner having a vision for something that other people can't yet see. And that is definitely how this has felt for me. I actually shared a couple of months ago on social media and in an email to my community that quite a few people, when I first talked about rebranding, kind of said like, I don't think you need to rebrand. Why are you rebranding? You're making a mistake. Like someone literally said to me to my face at an event, you're making a mistake. You're wasting your money. You don't need to rebrand. And whilst that's interesting that people want to tell me how to run my business, what was interesting was noticing like people don't know my business. People don't know my vision. People don't know what's possible because it's not their business. I really believe that you know your business best. And this rebrand for me has been a real like exercise in that principle, where Even if people don't think I need to rebrand, I knew I needed to. And it's interesting, now that I'm rebranding, people are like, oh, I see it now. I see what you could see, but they couldn't see it because it's my vision. So when you have vision for your business, you need to give yourself a permission slip to tune into that, to listen to that, to hold that. And then the holding of the vision in the process is so key as well. You know, when you're getting revisions back and you don't like them necessarily, you've got to hold your vision. You've got to go, no, this is what I want. Or when you feel like you're getting a bit stuck, you've got to take yourself back to that vision. You've got to trust yourself. That second point that I made of, you know, it's a big investment of time, energy, money. That investment takes self-trust. When I, you know, choose to pay those invoices and put my time and energy into this, I'm saying, like, I trust my vision. I trust that I'm capable in making this worthwhile to take this risk, to make these investments. I think in business, the amount that you can trust yourself is so key, because growth takes a lot of self-trust. It's believing in things that aren't necessarily always obvious or possible or clear to other people. And so that would be my final reflection, that in all of this, I think I've learned a lot more about trusting myself and holding my vision really closely, really strongly, and starting to see as well the real benefits of that. So there we have it. Those are my 5 reflections on the unexpected things that I have learned and experienced in rebranding my whole business. My website is probably going to be done around when this episode comes out. So I'm going to tentatively say that in the next couple of weeks, everything is going to be done, fingers crossed, and it will be finished. If you're not familiar, I take the whole of August off every year. And so it's perfect timing that my rebrand is going to be done. Then I'm going to take a break, rest from all of these Pinterest boards and decision fatigue. And then in September, I'm going to come back to a fresh, new, shiny business, which I'm so excited about. So keep an eye out for me sharing the website and the new branding. But in the meantime, one of the really exciting things I've done as part of this rebrand is record a load of free masterclasses. I have never released pre-recorded free masterclasses before. I've always done live workshops, and your time is precious. And also, I don't always think you need to speak for an hour for people to get value. So I've recorded 5 10-minute free masterclasses on the topics that I think most business owners need to hear about. There's ones in there around your finances, around saving time, around defining your reputation in your marketing, around working on your business effectively. And there's also one, I believe, around your mindset and behaviors as a business owner. So head to the link in the show notes, wherever you're tuning into this, to go and download one or even all of those if you want to learn more. They're all super short, really actionable, and I'm really proud of them. They're a part of the rebrand that I'm so excited about. So make sure to go and check those out. Get some more free expertise from me to help your business grow, and I'll be back in your ears next Tuesday.